So today on Reality Coaching for Writers, the question is, are you tempted to quietly or loudly quit writing on your projects? Diana, welcome to Reality Coaching for Writers, where we offer...
No fluff, just the real stuff.
Yeah, so this was a topic you and I kind of bantered around a little bit a couple of weeks ago about there's a whole phenomena, and I think you sent me some information on this within the corporate America where people are quietly quitting. And it's a term I hadn't heard until you brought it up. Maybe you could kind of introduce the concept to our audience.
Well, this originated in out of the pandemic, with a lot of people that began to work from home and panic ensuing and jobs being sized because, you know, they weren't using their building space anymore. They found that people could easily work from home. And so it seemed that there seemed to be this imbalance where the managers were no longer supporting the employees, and a lot of employees stayed at their desk, their paycheck, but quietly quit. And they say now in 2023 that people have loudly quit. So they've actually turned in their notice, which we kind of see when we go out into the retail spaces, try to, you know, make a call to the IRS or somebody online, and you're just constantly put on hold and dealing with artificial intelligence because the workforce has walked away. So I got to thinking, Eddie, what this phenomenon takes place in writing as well with writers and authors. Have you ever, Eddie, been tempted to, you know, quietly quit or loudly quit your writing?
No, not me. I don't have that problem. My problem is I still don't have enough time to do the projects that I want to do. So as far as writing goes, that's not an issue for me. But I have run into it fairly often with the writers that I coach and writing friends of mine that started out with great guns. It almost sounds like a sermon or some verse we've read from Paul somewhere. People start out with great enthusiasm and never get to the end of the project, you know. And I can think of projects and names right now of manuscripts that were 90% complete, really, 90%. And here it is 3-4 years later, and the last 10% hasn't gotten done. And of course, part of the problem with writing is once you pause a project and you go back and pick it up, you almost start from the beginning and start all over. And so it's the Groundhog Day phenomena where you just constantly keep going back and keep going back. So yeah, it is a thing, I think, in the writing community.
Well, and as an agent, I can't tell you how many times at a writing conference, I would see something that I was very interested in. And I would ask them, okay, go home, prepare a proposal, go to our site, see our submission guidelines, and prepare a proposal and send it to me because I think I could sell this. And they never followed through. And so I think a lot of this is where our insecurities come in and writers can self-sabotage themselves. I used to walk into Barnes and Nobles and think, wow, I really think I can sell a book to add to these bookshelves. I mean, look how many books are already here, you know. But then I would again get that passion for a project, and I had to have that passion because you know how long it can take to sell a book to a publisher. Yeah. Sometimes it took 3 years, but you have to be passionate about a project, and I know you are passionate about your writing.
Yeah, but I've got a different approach about Barnes and Noble and libraries. Benny likes to go to libraries, you know, and get books. She doesn't buy books. She goes to the library and gets the books.
I do too.
and she's always asking me to come with her to the library, and I won't go. I won't go to a library, and I don't go to bookstores. And the reason I don't is because when I walk in, I get discouraged.
Right.
Because my books aren't there, right? And the odds of my books ever being in my local library are really remote. And so that environment leaves me discouraged. So therefore I don't go. because
That's good.
I don't want to bring that in. And the same thing happens. It happens with Amazon on reviews. When I'm writing on a project, I'm very reluctant ever to look at my reviews on Amazon or to look at my book sales on Amazon, because odds are I'm going to be disappointed in what I see, and that's going to bring discouragement. So, like I said, I'm a little bit rare in that, Diane, in that I just keep my head down and I keep working on my project. And I know that if I do that, I'll finally get to the end, and then I'll have to deal with selling it, marketing it. Is anybody going to like it? I'll deal with all that at the end. But if I don't finish it, I'll never even have to do all that. So that's my
Well, I think that's great advice. That's great advice, Eddie. Just keep your head down and do what you know you're supposed to do. And the thing that's different about the corporate world versus the family of God and our manager, he's not gonna do a poor job of managing us. You know, I think one of the hardest things for men predominantly, but women as well, is to ask for help. But David, I was just writing a piece this morning. David, in all through the Psalms, he learned that he had a good, intimate relationship with God, and he cried out for help over and over and over again. And when he failed, when he screwed up, he confessed his sin, and he then asked for help. And I think when writers get discouraged or stuck, I want to encourage them, cry out to God. He's your corporate manager. He's ready and able to come to your aid. And he'll give you an idea to inspire you. I'm blessed. You know, Eddie, I live close to the beach, not as close as I was 2 months ago, but close. And so when I get down in any way, pack it up and I head to the beach. And it doesn't take me very long at all to get my perspective back, you know. So find the thing that encourages you. So Eddie, we know what you avoid, but what are some of the things you do when you find yourself needing encouragement?
Well, there's actually two things. There are two things that I wish I could do, and there's one thing that I do. So I've got two, but there's really only one that I do. And the first thing that I do, and this is a biblical principle that actually was reaffirmed to me last Friday morning during a dream. I came out of a dream, woke up basically with the voice of, the Spirit telling me, this is a biblical truth. You need to remember this. And that is, we spend time in prayer. We're supposed to pray and bring our petitions and everything. But we need to take at least one action in expectation of the answer to that prayer, right? So this is an old sermon that everybody's heard it a bunch of times, right? But I was thinking, when I came out of that dream, I was thinking that's true. Every time Jesus answered a prayer, healed somebody, there was at least one thing the person did, not in order to receive it, but actually to see it fulfilled, right? It's not that they had to do anything. It's that they did something and they saw the result, right? And that was everything. And I thought about that, and I thought, well, that's true. Every time, for example, I do one marketing thing for my books, and I brought that along with prayer, I finish expecting something to happen, and therefore I'm encouraged to keep going. Now, whether the result is what I want or not is often not the case, right? I don't see the results that I really hope for, but for a moment, I was encouraged and expecting, and so I kept going, right? Well, that means tomorrow I can pray and take one more action and repeat the process, and eventually, there's going to be fruit somewhere.
I like that. That's good. So what's the thing you know to do, but you don't get to do it, that inspires you?
And that's really, I think, kind of the heart of what we were going to talk about on this episode. And that's surrounding yourself with your cheerleaders. Yeah. The people that actually do like what you write. They do believe in your message. They are your champions. And you have to do two things. One, you have to weed out the people that are what I call the ones that are going to wee on your flowers. No matter how many times you plant, they're just going to come along and pour vinegar and salt on it. They're a Debbie Downer. So you got to, when you're writing, you can't be around those individuals if it's about a writing project. So you don't do that. But you've got to have those people that are just crazy enough, foolish enough to go, I like your stuff. I really like your stuff. These are your little groupie people. And every artist has these people, if you look. Our genre may be, or our writing readership may be very narrow, right? It may be 10 people, but there are 10 that actually like the thing you write. So find those people and just stay in contact with them and reach out and say, I need a little pick me up. Just tell me one good thing that I did well and the last thing you read, and let them fill you back up. I think that's what Paul was saying when he says be an encourager. Don't put out the spirit's fire. Have somebody blow a little bit of oxygen onto that flame so it spurs up.
Yes. Oh my. Yeah, find your tribe. And some find them at writers' conferences, but say you just don't have the opportunity to go to a in-person conference. There are virtual conferences like the Philadelphia conference coming up in August that we're participating in. But also I found that you can go to Barnes and Noble or your library, and you can ask if they know of any local writing groups. And I did that at my Barnes and Noble when I lived in South Dakota. And I found the greatest bunch of people to hang out with once a week. And I had so much fun with them. I wrote, and it was just an escape for me, but they really honed their craft, and I was able to critique and add my 2 cents. But it was just such a sweet bunch of people that really encouraged one another. And several of them are published today from that group. And so also, of course, Google, you could Google, word weavers in my area. And there's one here in Wilmington, and there's a new one outside of Asheville that started, which is great because there hadn't been one of word weavers there before. But Denise Locke leads a wonderful one in Haywood County. And Eddie, what about Raleigh area? Do you know of any writers groups?
Oh yeah, I was 25 years ago. I was member of one. I remember we met, I don't know, down at a Barnes and Noble, I guess. It was a bookstore. But I bailed on those because they consume a lot of time that I need to write. It's, getting around a bunch of people that are talking about writing, which is fine. For me, the thing, and this is, I think what we're talking about, I want to make sure I'm clear that we're not talking about a writers group. We're talking about an encouragement group.
Right. The right people.
And it's right. You want these to be writing related, but it's not a critique group, because a critique group, the very first half of that sounds really negative, and it is, because they're gonna say bad stuff about your work. So I was thinking about this. Laura Loveberry, which I did a thing on Facebook. I've got a caricature she drew of me. And Laura is one of these people I've seen a couple of times at the Maranatha conference, and she brings a ton of energy when she shows up. She just does. She's full of energy, which is good for me because I need somebody with a lot of energy, right? To speak into me. And her writing, I don't even really care so much about whether she's a good writer or a bad writer or anything else. It's just that she brings energy and she can illustrate. She's a good drawer, right?
Oh yeah. That character, sure.
Exactly. So that's a different aspect. And so when I'm around Laura, I feel encouraged to keep writing, and I think I encourage her to keep writing. So that's just 2. And so it's tangibly related to writing, but it doesn't have to be a critique group. It's just somebody it could be like Hannah, for example, who does book covers. She's a great writer. She's also a good cover designer, people like that are just kind of in your group. And it may be something as simple as a 15-minute Zoom chat once a week. Everybody gets on and says, this is what I'm working on. This is what I'm doing. This is the struggle. What do y'all think? And just get in and get out and get that plug in. That's kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I agree. No, that's great. And I think you'll find, you might go to a writer's group and find one person, affirming intimate relationship with out of that group. And out of a large conference, you might find one person. But then if you add that person to the other, like you said, then you have a small cheerleading section, because I'm telling you, life is hard. It's difficult. And it takes a real intention to stay motivated, to continue to, walk the path that you're meant to walk. And I don't know if it fits, but I'm just going to share one of my favorite quotes by Dr. Darius Daniels. And he said, he just reminds us to find the thing that he calls it divine discontent. What is the thing that, bothers you? And he said, and that's where God wants you to bring a solution. And I know, Eddie, it bothers you that young boys don't read. And so you've set your whole writing based on bringing books that would appeal to young boys in particular, but also girls would enjoy. I like them, but that's one of your passions, right?
Yeah, it is, and the vision I've got. It's not even the books. I mean, the books are the vehicle that the story is delivered in. So we call it a book. But really, it's the story that I'm passionate about, right? And honestly, my vision is, and I know it's out there, it's going to happen. I just haven't found the solution yet. It's animated cartoons. There is a way, I'm sure, for me to take my stories, the stuff I've written, and flip it into low-cost AI-generated animated cartoons, and get that up on YouTube. That would be the end, because then I can do this all day long, and there's a built-in audience. Yeah, I would prefer the boys read the book, but if they're seeing the cartoon, then they may also pick up the book and actually see the prose between the dialogue, the character development of
yeah.
So that's the end of the whole project. The one thing about
you say that's the end goal, but then you would continue to write to feel.
Oh, and I'd write faster.
Yeah.
I would much more faster. Yeah, that's the thing. Once you find fertile ground and the seed you put in is producing a harvest, you're going to keep producing. You're going to keep expanding that ground until you find out, well, I'm into rocks and weeds, so I'll stop growing there and I'll go this direction over here with my field now, right?
Right.
That's just the way. That's the way we're wired. No farmer goes, well, I got an acre, I got one good acre. I'm good with one. No, you want two, you want three, you want the whole field. So
right.
The other thing I would say about these groups, and this actually applies to both, whether it's a critique group and it also applies to the encouragement group. And that is, when we come to them, always expect for us to learn one thing, okay? We may be the subject matter expert, right? We may know everything. We think we know everything. We know a lot about writing. Well, you and I know a lot about writing. Other people know a lot about writing. Well, if everybody comes with that attitude, then what we've really done is we're going, I'm the expert, people are going to listen to me. I'm the expert, people are going to listen to me. So now you've got all these people that are expecting to be heard, and we're not really listening. But if you come with the expectation of, I want to learn one thing tonight that I didn't know before from somebody, I don't care who it is, right? Mm-hmm. Then you come with expectation and you're more willing to listen. Well, you'll share your knowledge, but you want to listen, because until you get that one nugget, you haven't found it. I found that works really well in Bible studies where we know a lot.
Yeah.
But when you've got the scripture before you, if you open it up and start a study that way and expect to learn one more thing about Jesus you didn't know, you're more in tune to the Bible study and listening to other people. So I kind of stole that concept.
I love that. Yeah, no, that's good. That's very good. I was also thinking, so we're talking about eliminating the quiet quitting and the loud quitting, because we believe that our voices matter. Our voices are needed. And so that's why Eddie and I coach writers and do what we do, because we have the freedom. You know, today we're celebrating Independence Day. We have the freedom right now to express our thoughts and perspectives and share them with other people through story and nonfiction formats, blogs, microblogs, our social media platforms. But, you know, we might not always have that. We don't know. And plus, we don't know when our lives are, you know, going to come to an end. So the thing is, we are all meant to contribute to human flourishing and to bring, you know, Christ to others in a way that benefits and helps them come to know what abundant living is like. And sometimes pure entertainment is the very thing that a soul needs when the world's overwhelming. So, and yet in story, because we're relaxed, we can often get a really big aha moment. I can't tell you how many times during a movie I was just sitting down to escape with, God speaks to me through, you know, and because I'm relaxed.
Right. And I'll throw this plug-in shout out for the one I shared on Facebook last week or whatever. The movie Air.
Yeah.
About the way Michael Jordan wound up with his own shoe brand. Is an incredible, and I'm like you, I sat down to watch it mostly about the historical. I was interested more in the history of this because I'm a history person, and I know Jordan, you know, he's Wilmington down the road where you live now, right?
Right.
So I grew up with all this. I just didn't know the backstory, so I was interested in that. But my goodness, it's really the history's there, but that's not what the story's about. It's really, it boils down to one guy who saw gold. I mean, he just saw gold in this guy. He saw something in Michael Jordan that nobody else saw, all right? At least in his perspective. And he bet everything on Michael Jordan and the concept that he could sign Jordan to the shoe contract. And because he knew Jordan was going to be great. Of course, I'm looking at it, I'm watching this and I'm going, this is the gospel. This is sell everything you've got and go follow this guy that says he's the Messiah. Everything, you know, and that's really, so that's two parallel. I mean, that's really the story. And that's not what they set out to write, but that's what they did. That's the parable that they told in that story. And at the end of that, I told Penny, I was like, this hit all the buttons for me, because I'm encouraged. I got finished and I was like, I just want to keep writing. I know it's going to work. I know it's going to work. I know it's going to work. In the same way that Jordan just kept shooting because he knew he was going to score. He knew he's going to score. He's going to score, right? That's, you know, anyway.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. And I think that's, like you said, we're going to find the encouragement when we ask God to help us and encourage us. He'll bring it. He might bring it out in the grocery store through a sweet cashier, or a movie or a book in some way. But you're right. When we get inspired like that, we get back to work. We get back to work, and our passion reignites. So Eddie, I want to bring. Let's talk to Zena and bring somebody on that does animation. And talk to them.
Yeah, let me talk to Zena about that offline first to make sure it's done, because she and I kind of discussed it once before and it wasn't really there yet. But I'll talk to her offline and she can come up with something. So
or introduce us to someone that we can interview and you can learn, and it will be a step for you to get your end goal. That'd be awesome.
That would be. So here's my closing comment for today, because this is something I found that's just a lot of fun. And people that know me well, Cindy, my wife, you, other people know that the Eeyore Eddie, right? The old Eeyore Eddie, right? So this is something that the Holy Spirit has just changed me over the last couple of years after I sold the publishing company. is you mentioned the cashier. When you see anybody in the service industry doing their job well, or even if you see them struggling and you know that they need an encouraging word, if you just say that, if you just give them one encouraging word, it's going to make you feel better, and it's going to make them feel better, and it costs you nothing to do that. Nothing to do that. I mean, I've found, and this is very risky because you're never supposed to comment about anybody's appearances ever, right? But even taking the risk of saying, that's just a great looking outfit on you. It accentuates your hair, your color, whatever. I've done that, and Benny's punched me like, you don't say that. But it's true to me. It really, and I've yet to have any woman come back and go, shut up. Maybe she thinks that, but even, and like I said, that's the rare. I don't do that often. Usually it's the service, but just a word of encouragement to anybody is going to make them feel better and make them feel better. So it costs you nothing. What's your closing comment?
My final comment is, one of my psychologist friends once told me that survivors of suicide that jumped off a tall building or a bridge, these are people that survived. They said the solution to their problem came to them halfway down. So I want to say your solution's there. You don't need to jump off a tall building or, a bridge. Just have these friends and ask God for the help, and just stay at your task and fulfill it, because there's so much joy when, like Eddie, when you hold a book in your hands that you wrote and it's your baby's born and it's there in your hands. There's joy.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Right? There's joy.
Yeah.
And I always felt that for my clients that sold a book. I felt like a proud grandparent, like, yay, And so there's joy in words. Like you said, in Proverbs, it said, a word fitly spoken is like apples of gold in a pitcher of silver. It's a beautiful thing. So, yeah.
All right. Yeah. Enjoy your
Okay, we'll see y'all next week. Happy 4th, everybody. Bye-bye.